Today's the start of my project to install off-grid hybrid solar inverter with batteries. And I'm starting with batteries. So the batteries I've chosen for my project are lithium phosphate, the LiFePO4 battery cells. And I've chosen to do battery cells instead of just buying a big completed battery because I think overall from all the hundreds of videos that I've watched that this is going to be a little bit more easier for me to grow, and also as things happen I can troubleshoot easier and swap out bad cells rather than have to deal with support or returning a whole gigantic battery. So what I have here is 100 amp hour batteries. They have 200 and 300 I guess, or whatever. They have different sizes, and when it comes down to it, all of these batteries are built the same. If I tore this up, it'll be the same as like in a Tesla. It'd have a ton of, I guess, AA size or something similar batteries inside there, and they're just all connected into a small little package. These are 100 amp hours, so if you got a 200 amp hour, it'll essentially be a one package about this size, maybe a little smaller. I'm not too sure since I've never seen one physically before, but yeah, so I like this. So I've got them all laid out how I'm going to be setting them up. Essentially, I've got 16 cells. They're both each of them are 3.2 amps each. And I'm going to put them all in serial, positive to negative, negative to positive, or whatever, just alternate all the way through. There's tons of videos out there that people have done this like tons of times and makes it nice looking pretty, but I'm going to do it my own way. I just needed to figure out how it's going to be laid out and what size it's going to be. So it's just under a foot that way, and 10 inches that way, so about 10 by 11, 10 by 12. So I'm going to figure out how I'm going to put these together. There's specific things I got to do, put spacers in between them all, get the bus bars all connected, and then tie them all up together, or actually tie them all together first, so that they don't have a room to bubble up or have gas expanding in them. And so there's lots of stuff to putting this together, which is going to be a fun project. And so I'm going to get started now that I have it measured. I can get started on how I'm going to assemble it. Yep. All right now I have the batteries or cells all laid out in the polarity and directions that it needs to go. So you'll notice that it's alternating between negative and positive, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So that way I can connect them all in series. When I watched other people's YouTube videos, what they did was in between each of these cells, they had some sort of plastic or vinyl sheet that they took and inserted in between each one. A little disclaimer, I have a little bit of OCD and a lot of it of ADD. And so I'm not too sure exactly why, but I think it's because to help prevent some heat transfer or something like that. But so what I ended up doing was these are actually self-adhesive cutting board things that I got from Michael's Crafts. And essentially what I'm going to be doing is there's sticky adhesive. So I'll just do this across each one of these, and voila, it's already there. I don't have to worry about them falling out or anything, but time to step through each one of these and get them installed. So with all of the inserts in place now, I have one more insert left, which is going to go right down the center here. But before I put that in there, what I'm going to do is go ahead and start putting the bus bars in. I want to have this negative and this positive be the final location where the leads are going to come off of it over into the BMS system. And so I'm going to start from this side and alternate all the way through like this. I'm just going to put everything on there nice and loose, just so that I have the spacing set up. Just going to repeat this all the way through and then go from there. Okay, with all the bus bars finger tight, I'm all ready to just separate this a little bit and put this final piece in here. Give it some insulation or separation. So this is almost a finished 48 volt battery. I've got all the separators in place right now. These are just on here finger tight, the bus bars. They're going positive to negative, positive, negative. Putting 16 100 amp hour batteries in series, 3.2 volts each, so that comes out to be 42 volts and 48 volts. And then on this side, I could actually choose to put the BMS on this side or on this side, the takeoff. I still got to get a jumper to put across here to complete the circuit. And then the opposite side, I'm going to put the battery management system off of it. Before I do that, next is to get the jumper and wrap all this up with some packing tape so it stays nice and secure. Okay, now with the bus bars finger tight on here, and I've got a bungee cord wrapped around it right now to kind of hold it in place. I'm going to go ahead and use some strapping tape to tie all this together to keep it from expanding and bulging as it charges and discharges. So I've got everything all lined up, everything's all ready to be tightened down. I went ahead and got a torque wrench for screws, torque screwdriver, etc. And I tried to find out what the actual torque specs were for these bolts, and it was like wildly ranging all over the place from any forums that I saw and from the YouTube videos. I even tried going, the battery manufacturer is really the person who should be telling me what these should be torqued down to. But I just played around with it a little bit, and it looks like it's going to be about 15 pounds of torque. And so that's what I'm going through and retorquing all these down to right now. Like this one, I don't think I've done yet. And that seems to be a good one. It's not crushing the lock washers terribly, and it seems nice and solid, holding it in place without digging too deep into the battery as well. So this is getting torqued down to 15 pounds. Next item on the list is going to be installing this battery management system. This is what it's going to do. I'm going to probably mount it like just right in the front or something, and it's going to monitor each one of these cells individually and make sure that they are charged and discharged evenly, so that you don't have one cell going bad sooner than the other cells. So the way it connects to the battery is this connector is going to be plugged into there, and it's got 16 leads. Each one of these, I've got to add a connector, a ring terminal onto each one of these, and each one is going to be tied to one of the cells there to actually monitor the cells. What's interesting about how I'm going to be tying this into there is that each of these bus bars It seems to come with a spot to screw in additional items that you would need to add to it, which is going to be the terminals for the battery monitor system, management system. And so I had to run over to Ace Hardware and get some of these M3 size screws, which are a handful to try to screw by hand. Let me see if I can do it without killing myself, because this is all live electricity here. Oh, there we go. So I've got 16 of these things. I'm gonna screw one of these into each one temporarily, and then after I get the ring terminals onto the BMS wires, then I can put them on there and start the management on the battery. So now that I have the battery started, that's just the first component in getting an off-grid solar or hybrid inverter setup going. What I'm going to do next is, a lot of people, you know, in the videos, they'll build some sort of case that they could carry the battery in or mount it somewhere or something like that. What I'm actually going to do is build sort of a workbench, which is going to hold this battery and any future batteries that I have, and wire up nice and neatly to all the sub panels and inverter, etc. So it's going to be in the garage, because my garage is very nice. It's climate controlled as well, and right now it's sort of messy. So this is all the materials I have ready to start doing a build, but it's actually going to go in this corner of my garage over here. And the reason it's going to go in this corner is because there's the panel for the garage right there, and it's not enough room to mount any kind of solar equipment or route anything. So it's going to have to come up over the ceiling into this enclave over here. I'm going to have to move everything out of here and get started mounting plywood against the wall there. So first thing I'm going to do to get the area ready to install everything is get my plywood painted, and do that first. Yep. All right, with my orange wall up and ready, I'm going to build a little workbench type shelf thing. It's got to be sturdy enough to hold this heavy ass battery ×3. So I'm going to get started with my 2x4s and build my workbench. It's going to be about 18 inches out and about 48 inches wide. So I've got the frame complete now. Next thing I gotta do is get the top on there and a bottom shelf as well. And I'm gonna be using 1/2-inch plywood. So now the base is done, and this is pretty sturdy. The plan is to actually hold not just one battery, but 3 batteries at least up top, and another 3 on the bottom if it needs to, expand it. And next is gonna be the top half, which is gonna be some walls for the vent fans and a cover. There we go. Okay, I've got my 48-volt battery sitting on my new stand here. Still hasn't finished completing it yet, but I'm ready to connect my BMS. This is the battery management system. It's got this little connector which has 16 wires on it, and one of those wires is black and the others are all red. The black is going to go to the negative, and each one of the red ones will connect to the positive terminal of each of the batteries here. And one of the things you can see on the battery here is that it's in series, so you can see that the positive, this is the positive here, is connected with the bus bar to the negative of the next battery. Positive, negative of that battery, positive, negative, positive, negative. So this takes this 3.2 volts, and this adding it to this one, which makes it 6.4 volts, 9.6 volts, etc., 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 etc. And then across at the back here, this whole side, left side, is going to be 24 volts when you come down to it, around 24 volts. And then to jumper over here, I couldn't use the same bus bars that came with it. I had to make my own little copper bus bar. And I might have to get a little bit longer screw, but that tightened down there, and I cut the bus bar in half so that I could screw in the terminal over there. But this makes it 24, and then it continues the circuit over and comes up back the other way to this terminal here. So I'm going to have an empty negative and an empty positive, and this is going to, together, is what's going to make 48 volts. And before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and double check all the voltage. You can see I've got the ground attached over here, and I'm going to check every positive lead. So of course the first one, of course, is on the same battery, 3.2. If I go to the positive of the next battery, there we go, 6.5. It's going to increase by approximately 3.24 every single time. 9. So it's going to be 12, 13. 16, 19, 22, 26, and then when I'm going to jump over to the other side, 29, good. So my bus bar is working that I had to build myself. 32, 35, 39, 42, there we go, 45, and then 48.9. So next I have my battery management system here, the BMS, and it needs to have a sensor or lead connected to each of the battery cells so it could track what the voltage is across these batteries and adjust the charging for it, and also the discharging. So what I did before, you saw these wires here, it came all uniform sizes. I had to strip the end off of each one of these, attach my own connector, and heat shrink them on there. And then what I've done is add them in the proper order. So if you can look here at the connector, you can see there's one black wire here and 16 red wires. And what the black wire is, it goes directly to ground, and the next red wire next to it is going to go to the first positive. The second red wire next to it is going to go to the second positive, third positive, fourth positive, all in order, and it has to be in the correct order. So I've got it temporarily tied in the right spots here, so you can see it's screwed in right there on each of the terminals. The positive there, and then this is on the positive there, etc. And then all the way at where it crosses over, I added my little modification there, and it's all tied in. And so what I need to do before I actually plug in my my BMS into the connector is I need to make sure these voltages are correct. Each wire is going to have a different voltage. It's going to be additive, 3.24 on each, it increased by 3.24 on each one. So I'm going to do that test right now, make sure that all these are connected in the correct order, otherwise it'll blow up my BMS. So I've got this safety device here, which is a piece of cardboard, Amazon cardboard, because that electricity is extremely dangerous. And I've got my meter all set up, and I'm going to check across each one of these connectors. Let's see, 3.2, so that's correct. The next one should be 6.4, 6.5, I guess. 809.7, 12, 16, 20, 22, 25, 28 or 29, 32, 35, 39, 42, 45, 48, and 51.9, 52 total on the outside. So my wiring is correct, and I could plug this into the BMS and enable the battery management system. So I've got the BMS here. I believe this antenna that's plugged in here is the Bluetooth, and they have a Wi-Fi dongle as well. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that into here. As soon as I figure out how to do that, like here. And then I'm going to go ahead and plug this into here. And this is what's actually going to power it. It gets powered from the battery. And now my battery is finally looking pretty. This is actually a complete battery. Only things left is that I believe I have to connect this negative to the negative terminal over here. And then the positive has to go to a cutoff switch, and then to the distribution panel, which is going to go to the inverter when I eventually have that. And this is the Wi-Fi module that's taped onto here, and I believe this is the Bluetooth module, the little antennas here. So this is the completed battery, and I'm eventually probably going to have two more right next to it. But next step, I got to go ahead and finish my the rest of my cover for this. I have half of a workbench here left to go, and then further up is going to be the inverter there. Okay, so now I have the top half of my battery shelf box all finished. I watched a whole bunch of videos, and a lot of people do things differently. They sometimes just roll up a metal shelf and a rack and stuff and set their batteries on it. Some people have a workbench they set it on, and some people actually build a custom box. So essentially I kind of built a custom box over here. So what was important to me is that one, this had to be sturdy, so that can hold a lot of weight right there. and two, it had to be at a good height that I could work on it. I really don't want to lift batteries. These things are really heavy in and out of a box, and I didn't want to have swinging doors that I'd have to prop open and stuff and things like that. So essentially this is just going to sit on top of it, and I could just walk over and pick it up and take it off. It's a lot easier, and set that out of the way, then I have access to all the batteries that are going to be in here. I also installed vent fans. So there's 3 fans in here. They were just cool because they're flat instead of the what you normally see is the square ones with the fan. They suck up air and out. There's a gap down here, which I'm going to use to put the kill switch or the circuit breaker for each of the batteries as I need to. Plus it's going to be the airflow to draw air through there if I need it. Depending on the temperature and stuff, I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up having to set up the fans. And also on the back here, I've got a gap here because this is where the 4-gauge cables, no, actually the 12-gauge cable is going to come up to the inverter and the power box, etc. So that way it's going to be looking a lot neater. Okay, with that lid taking off and sitting on the floor, you can see how the fans are set up in here. Each of these fans are daisy chained into the next one. So all I'm going to end up doing is having one USB connection in here, and these fans will run and keep the whole thing ventilated. Yeah, so nice and easy. Everything's nice and neat right there. And then again, here's my single battery that I've gotten so far. Eventually I'm going to have 3. I could actually squeeze 4 in here, but I don't really know if I'm going to use 4. There's at least 3. Again, these are 48 volt. There's a 48 volt battery. They're built with 16 3.2 volt 100 amp hour batteries. So this is a 100 amp hour battery. When I add the other 2 batteries that are going to sit here, it's going to be 300 amps because they're going to be in parallel going to the inverter, and that should be sufficient to carry what I'm expecting to load on it. But it's going to be a learning experience. I'm going to find out. The BMS, the battery management system, it's what I've seen that has been recommended by most people that are building their own stuff. And you can see how I did all the wiring on there. And it's pretty neat. It's got a little web app. With the web app, it's called Smart BMS. When you launch it, you're going to have to do some setup to have the connect the app to your battery. And once you have the battery connected, you can see it listed in here with this little serial number, and you'll see that this one's online. It also has a summary up here saying that this battery, my 48 volt battery, is at 37.7% charging. I've never charged it. This is actually came about 50% charged, and it will eventually get charged in a little bit. When I select the inside of the battery, it's getting a real-time status. So again, you see this 37.7% charge. You'll see that the total voltage out of the battery is 15.6 volts, and remaining capacity is only 11.3 amps out of 100. So it's definitely almost dead. It can't really run anything. But when you scroll down in that app, you can see each of the 16 individual cells and at what voltage it's reading at right now. So this is pretty neat. I hit a little refresh button. It's actively pinging it and getting the information. So pretty nice stuff. When I do add the other 2 batteries, it's going to show up and give me the same information right here. So that's pretty much my beginning of setting up my off-grid hybrid solar inverter battery backup system. What I'm going to be doing next is stage 2. One was to start with the battery. Next is going to be to get the inverter and get my breaker installed, breaker box. So I've got a breaker panel already ready to go. This is actually a real whole house circuit breaker panel that my son and I had originally gotten to replace the breaker panel in his house. We never got around to it because we found so many electrical problems. He ended up getting a real electrician to do the job. So I've got a brand new breaker box right here, which is going to be awesome. It's going to do what I need to do for the off-grid setup. So this was part 1, just getting the battery set up. a place to mount everything. So we got the structure already ready. Stage 2 is going to be getting the inverter installed and getting this panel installed and the load set up for it. And stage 3 eventually will be the solar power for it. So I'm looking forward to getting my new toys and getting everything installed and started and actually using this for doing off-grid powering of my freezer.